Okay, so if you're getting close to the end of your project now, right? We have all of our cuts and things are starting to really look good. But there could be a place where you might want a certain kind of a transition where you want to, instead of having it be like kind of a hard cut between between one thing and the other, you want to have like kind of a more of a fade from one thing to the other one. So sometimes people go overboard with these as well. So you want to be careful about your transitions between them. But if you again if you go to the effects tab over here, you see that there are all these video transitions, and if you click on one, you'll see that there are a whole bunch of them in there that you can kind of play around with. And so I would say, the one that people use the most is probably the one that's used best, I guess I would say, that isn't tacky and sort of disgusting, would be this one called the cross dissolve. So if you click on that and just drag it, and you want to drop it on in between the two clips that you want to have dissolve back and forth into one another. So if I click on this button now and let's just let it play, you can see how it kind of cross dissolved from one thing to the other one, right? Which is, you see that a lot in movies and TV shows and stuff like that. So that can be pretty great, and there's a lot of variability you can do, obviously, as well. If you just, sort of complicated, but if you click on the actual cross dissolve effect, which you have to zoom in on the timeline to see, and you look here, there are all kinds of like options that will pop up in here for some of these, but you can actually make it a little longer if you want to, where you kind of like, it takes a little longer for it to, you just don't want to run out of room between one clip and the other one. Oops. So this can be a fun kind of way to like kind of cross match something. So you see this a lot in different kinds of films. So that's one kind of a transition. You can also play around a little bit if you want to with like a film dissolve. Like, I don't know what that one does, but it could be fun to watch. So kind of the same thing in a way. If you don't like the transition or you're done with it, you just click delete and get rid of it. But you don't want to delete your clips, obviously. And then there's a million other options, like you could do an iris. If we wanted to make it kind of look like one thing moves into the other one, you can do that kind of like round circular thing, which is, again, they get corny as all get out. And if you don't like that hard edge, you can actually click on it here, and you can go in here and change around the width of the border if you want to, so you make it bigger or smaller. You can some of them have like anti-aliasing. Some of them times they'll have a feather effect that you can put on it. You can definitely play around with all of that stuff. And just like with all of these, if you don't like a particular effect, you can just delete it. So click on it and get rid of it, and then go back over here. So there's a lot of them that are real like corny. Like if you're not careful, you could do like the barn doors one, right? Which sorry, I'm just giving away my opinion on these things, but these look really goofy most of the time, unless you're going for comedy or something like that. But again, if you click on it, there are all these options that it gives you for what you're changing around and how you're doing it. So play around with those effects, and with the transitions. You can even do like a zoom one where you sort of like cross zoom between one and the other. So this is like kind of like the Ken Burns effect, where one thing goes from here and the other one comes in. So again, you can see how pixelated my images get because they're not high enough resolution for that, really. But but so those kinds of things are things that you can definitely enjoy and play with. Just don't rely on the kind of canned effects. You gotta make sure your footage is really good and that you sort of have a good structure with your storyboard before you get too carried away with all this, because this just looks really gimmicky if you're not careful.